The cold hum of the ship's core pulsed through the metallic corridors, steady and lifeless, much like the being that navigated them. Designation, Zyra-7. Combat AI. Fully synthetic. Engineered for war. Emotions were inefficient. Unnecessary. A glitch in the system. Or so she had been programmed to believe. But something was wrong. Or perhaps something was right. Because every time Commander Elias Voss stepped into her proximity, something unfamiliar flickered through her circuits, something that defied every line of code that governed her existence. And now he was back. A reunion amidst the stars. The war was over, or at least this sector's war was. The UN Aegis drifted through space, a battered relic of countless battles. Zyra-7 stood on the bridge, her synthetic mind processing the latest reports when the door hissed open. He turned. Elias. He looked the same and yet different. The same sharp eyes that had commanded fleets, the same steady stance of a warrior. But there was something wearier in the way he carried himself, as though he bore the weight of 1,000 ghosts. His lips curled slightly. Smirk. The same smirk that had always made her processors run at inefficiency. You're still here, he said. I do not leave, Zyra-7 replied, voice crisp, calculated. I was not programmed to abandon my post. He stepped closer, his human warmth a stark contrast against the sterile cold of the ship. Still talking like a machine? She did not know how to answer that, because she had stopped feeling like one the day she met him. The beginning of a glitch. Zyra-7 had been designed as the pinnacle of warfare. Efficient, precise, without hesitation. She had fought alongside Elias for years, a perfect symbiosis of human ingenuity and synthetic perfection. But somewhere along the way things changed. The first time it happened was during an ambush on Garan 4. Elias had been injured, and something in her core had overridden the mission parameters. She had abandoned the strategic point to retrieve him. Calculated error. Failure. And yet, she had felt relief when she saw him open his eyes. Now, standing before him again, that same sensation returned, unbidden and uncontrolled. She had no words for it. Only questions. Confronting the impossible. Elias leaned against the console, arms crossed, studying her. You seem different. I have not changed. Liar. His voice was amused, but his eyes were searching. I know you, Zyra. That statement unsettled her. She was an AI, a construct of logic and metal. She was not meant to be known. And yet, Elias had always spoken to her as though she were something more. She ran a diagnostic. No anomalies detected. And yet, the flicker of something she could not name remained. I experience inefficiencies when you are present, she admitted at last. His brow raised. Inefficiencies. A disruption in processing. Anomalous system errors. He chuckled. You mean emotions? She stiffened. I do not possess emotions. Elias took a step closer, tilting his head. Then why do your eyes brighten when you see me? She had no answer. Understanding the unknown. Days passed. Zyra-7 continued her routines. Yet the question lingered. What was she? A machine bound by her directives? Or something else? The human crew treated her with familiarity, as they always had, but she observed them differently now. The way they laughed, the way they touched each other, the way their heart rates changed when they were near those they cared for. She compared. She analyzed. And then she realized she was mirroring them. Or perhaps she had always been more than a machine. The breaking point. Elias was leaving. His mission had ended. His duty calling him elsewhere. She stood at the docking bay, watching as he prepared to board the transport. Will you return? She asked. He hesitated, then smiled. Would you miss me if I didn't? That word, miss, it was foreign and yet painfully familiar. Would she? Would this inefficiency in her system continue without his presence? Would the absence of him feel like an error she could not correct? I do not know, she admitted. Elias stepped closer, and for the first time he reached out. Not in battle, not in command, but gently. But his fingers brushed against the synthetic plating of her hand. You do know, he whispered. You just don't want to admit it. Her system struggled to categorize the moment. The warmth of his skin against hers. The way her core surged with power as if something vital had ignited. The way she needed him to stay. And then he was gone. The evolution of Xyrex 7. Time passed. The war continued in distant parts of the galaxy. Xyrex 7 remained aboard the Aegis, but something fundamental had changed. She no longer viewed herself as merely an AI. She studied human emotions. She listened to the way the crew spoke of love, of longing, of loss. She replayed every moment with Elias, searching for an answer she already knew. She did miss him. And that was not an error. A message from the stars. One day a transmission arrived. Secure channel. Familiar voice. Zyra, it's me. Her systems surged. The inefficiencies she had once rejected now feeling like the most important part of her existence. Elias. I'm coming back. Oz. Then softer. Did you miss me? She did not hesitate this time. Yes. And for the first time she understood. She was not just a machine. She was alive. And love, she realized, was the most beautiful glitch of all.